Let this over here. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Allison Mezzo. This is Kate Lucky, and we are so excited to have you here today. I've been coming to MSHA for, I think, 7 years now since I was in graduate school, and this is my first side on the other side of the table, so I'm incredibly excited to present today. So let's get going. This 16 minutes is going to go by quick. Here are Kate's and my relevant disclosures. I work for Hope Network Neuro Rehab in Kalamazoo and for Western Michigan. And Kate, a co-presenter today, she has given us full permission for everything that we will be sharing about her today. Unless you change anything. Okay, we're good. So the title for today's seminar is about young adults with aphasia and supporting psychosocial well-being with relationship-centered care. You might notice that in your conference handouts, I have changed the original title. It was person-centered care, but it's changed to relationship-centered care. We have all heard the terms around centeredness: client-centered care, patient-centered care, consumer-centered care. And while this client-centered approach is important, it positions the needs of the client at the center of the clinical interaction, but it fails to provide enough insight into the clinician's support and the SLP's importance to the therapeutic relationship. Upon researching more deeply into this topic, I realized that relationship-centered care has to have a spotlight today. And that's because relationship-centered care supports our clients' psychosocial well-being, their quality of life, resilience, and ultimately their participation. So do me a favor with your pencil or pen, cross off person-centered care in the conference schedule and write in relationship-centered care. Before we dig in further, let's have a quick reflection. Can psychosocial well-being be influenced by relationship-centered care? What life events might happen in young adulthood? So here we're talking about ages approximately 18 to 40. And then to what extent might young adults with aphasia require different assessment and treatment goals than older adults? And here are our learner outcomes, which will also describe the layout for today's seminar. I will talk about relationship-centered care and how that relates to support psychosocial well-being in our young clients with aphasia. You're going to meet Kate, a young adult with aphasia. I will talk about AFRAM assessment and goal setting, and then Kate and I will perform a short vignette. And then finally, I will provide you with some resources that you can start using today in your clinical practice. Today's discussion will explain up-to-date literature on this topic, but it's also a personal model of care that has been afforded to me and Kate. So it's also, in a sense, a celebration. And so you'll get more information on that later. This word, resilience. There is a direct link between psychosocial well-being and resilience. Whereas poor psychosocial well-being is associated with decreased resilience, and increased psychosocial well-being is associated with stronger resilience. Formerly thought of as a static personality trait, resilience has become widely accepted as a dynamic state, and it's the capacity or the ability to maintain healthy functioning or adapting after experiencing a trauma. So when Kate and I discussed the idea of a topic or something we might want to talk about at a conference, we weren't exactly sure what we wanted to talk about. Kate wants to advocate for others with aphasia and others with disabilities. And it wasn't until I saw the theme of this year's conference, which is rebuilding resiliency, that I knew we needed to talk about well-being somehow. And it wasn't until I looked into the literature more thoroughly, I realized that there's not a lot of talk about young adults with aphasia. So this word resilience is a word that Kate and I talk a lot about. And I believe it's truly the foundation for Kate's continued recovery. She is probably sick of hearing this word because we've been talking about this for years now. But I hope that she would agree that she has demonstrated and continues to demonstrate resilience because it's been a very tested road for her. And so an additional outcome for today's seminar is to kind of understand a working rehabilitation of resilience and how we as the SLPs can support our clients achieve psychosocial well-being and rebuild their resilience. We do this first through establishing a trusting and genuine therapeutic relationship. Here are the models of care that are now the standard of practice in the field of speech pathology for aphasia assessment and intervention. I will quickly review these models of care. So the life participation approach to aphasia is a consumer-driven service delivery approach that focuses on re-engagement in life. At the center of the LPAA is the premise that the concerns and interests of all individuals with aphasia should be central to the intervention, and that these individuals should be empowered to be full participants in all aspects of their recovery. Speech pathologists, by empowering clients and their values, we become engaged in a process and attend to our clients' hopes, dreams, and life goals. And AFROM, the Aphasia Framework for Outcome Measurement, this builds on the values of the LPAA, and it's modeled after the WHO ICF framework. This graphic here shows a snapshot of the domains. So first, language and related impairments, which includes the linguistic processes related to speaking, understanding, reading, and writing, aka the core underlying impairment, the aphasia, the language disorder. Up at the top, participation, which is the person's involvement in their personally relevant life situations or roles. For example, being a college student, being a social worker. It reflects who we are and what goes on in our daily life. The communication environment. This domain defines things outside of the person with aphasia. For example, how to navigate an online college class, signing a consent form, understanding your medical professional's instructions, or even our spouses or our parents' attitudes about our aphasia. These are factors that either help or block communication access. Next is personal factors, which are characteristics inherent to the person, whether that be age, gender, culture. This includes things like identity, confidence, and resilience. This domain is a key part of our psychosocial well-being. How can we expect our clients to make progress or meet their goals if they're afraid to try new things, if they're embarrassed to see their friends again, or maybe they're scared to answer the phone and burdened with anxiety or depression and can't make a phone call to see a psychologist? Personal factors are a fundamental part of the aphasia picture, and it's crucial for psychosocial well-being. And in the center is the person living with aphasia. The four snapshot domains interact to create life with aphasia. And life with aphasia results from the dynamic interaction of the language impairment, opportunities to be successful in life, the outside and how people feel about themselves, and the outside society and environment. In 2013, Drs. Kagan and Simmons-Mackey made this clear in their article on Changing the Narrative. Aphasia masks aptitude, thereby reducing the opportunity for conversational interaction, which is the key to participating fully in life. Reduced opportunity to contribute in conversation influences and puts at risk every relationship, every life role, and almost every activity. So both the LPAA and the AFROM models have guided us SLPs on how to broaden our focus to consider the impact of aphasia. I'll say that again. These models have guided us on how to broaden our focus and consider the impact of aphasia. This brings us to our learner outcome number 1, which is to understand relationship-centered care for supporting psychosocial well-being. We can quickly define these. So relationship-centered care recognizes the central importance of affect and emotion in developing, maintaining, and terminating relationships in healthcare. In RCC, emotional support is given to patients through the emotional presence of the clinician. And it's founded on 4 principles that are listed here. Psychosocial well-being is a multidimensional construct consisting of psychological, social, and subjective components which influence the overall functionality of individuals in achieving their true potentials as members in life. Psychosocial well-being incorporates the physical, economic, social, mental, emotional, cultural, and spiritual detriments of health. Linda Worrell and colleagues drew attention to relationship-centered care in 2010, explaining the centrality of the relationship between the client with aphasia and the SLP. They note that this relationship is the foundation through which all therapy tasks are decided. And in regards to aphasia, the definition expands to include that therapists and patients bring dimensions of themselves as people into the relationship. The notion of detached concern or not being moved or influenced emotionally by the client is challenged. Third, the SLP is affected by the person with aphasia in the same manner that the client is affected by the SLP. And finally, through genuine relationships, SLPs can generate the interest and investment needed to serve others and to be renewed by that service. So when these principles are applied to aphasia services, the therapist and the patient and the family members bring dimensions of themselves into the relationship, which, as Worrell describes, encourages trust, confidence, and engagement in the rehab process. So in order to support psychosocial well-being, we heard from Linda Worrell again in 2019 in the article of 7 Habits of Highly Effective Aphasia Therapists, which summarizes and interprets data from 58 studies. This sets another stage for the importance of relationship-centered care and psychosocial well-being. And most importantly, these include perspectives from people with aphasia. So, how do SLPs support psychosocial well-being? Well, we prioritize relationships with the client and their care team. We find a rope team, which means that we help the person with aphasia find other people like themselves in support groups. We begin with the end in mind, knowing that our clients' overall participation and goals, that helps our clients achieve a successful life with aphasia. We practice smarter therapy, which walks hand in hand with smarter goal setting. I'll briefly review that later. SLPs support psychosocial well-being by leaving no person behind, meaning that we do whatever we can to help our clients get the care that they need. We look behind the mask, understanding that persons with aphasia will likely experience depression and to routinely screen for depression and make referrals as necessary. And finally, 7, we give people with aphasia a voice and support advocacy efforts. Just as the SLP has the power to positively impact a client's well-being, we can also negatively impact it. As documented by Street in 2009 and Williams in 2021, ineffective communication and lack of connection with our clients can limit engagement, promote withdrawal, and ultimately diminish treatment response. In 2020, Cohen Snyder and colleagues discussed relationship-centered care from the lens of the clinician. This article describes various vignettes from SLPs that shed light on the following clinical behaviors. First is listening to the client's whole self, ensuring the safety of the environment, remaining a compassionate and even empathetic facilitator, listening without judgment or opinion, and allowing the client's experience to be heard without shifting the conversation in another direction. And although this is only conjecture, it is possible that by disclosing personal information, the clinician can reduce the power imbalance in the clinical relationship. The clinician then can convey to the person with aphasia that they are seen as a competent person who, despite their own heavy losses, might empathize with another's difficult situation. And dealing with our own conscious and unconscious biases that can impact our therapeutic relationship in a number of different ways. We recognize and surfacing our clients' identities, including who they are, who they were before their aphasia, and who they are now. And finally, what benefits an RCC approach is fostering hope. Providing hope is essential in supporting our clients' psychosocial well-being. Hope is a rich concept to consider in that it cannot easily be contrived, which thus requires clinicians to relate genuinely with our clients if we are trying to convey it. For people with aphasia and their caregivers who have seen so much change in their language and identity and even their relationships, sometimes having a professional like us SLPs relate to them genuinely is the first reminder that there is hope for relating with anybody at all ever again. So we are the communication experts, and what better way to give our clients hope than to provide them with supportive, communicative environments where they can be successful. So young adults with aphasia. The truth is, we don't know a lot about the prevalence of young adults with aphasia, and these numbers up here are not going to be fully accurate based on all the variables that need to be considered when providing numbers about aphasia and stroke, but we do have some data. A new study in 2022 reported that stroke in young adults comprised of around 10 to 15 of all stroke patients. The ages they used in this study was between the ages of 18 and 45, which is 5 years outside of the range I provided you with earlier. But stay with me here on my math. The CDC reports that around 800,000 strokes per year in the US occur, and about 800,000 of these people are going to live. So 10 to 15% of that number is between 65 and 99,000 young adults will survive after a stroke per year in the US. Now we know from the aphasia white papers that approximately 1/3 of stroke survivors will live with some sort of aphasia. So that boils down to between 21,000 and 33,000 young adults per year in the United States. So this number is likely low though, because younger adults might have a higher survival rate than older adults. This should help paint a picture. There are 21,000 to 33,000 adults just like Kate every year that will bear the impact of aphasia. This age range of adult, they have a lot of life to live. And here are some examples of some life milestones that happen during young adulthood. This age group is becoming. And that's what makes it so different from the population that we might think of when we think of adults with aphasia. These adults are perhaps in college. They've started their careers or even started a family. This group of people may have bought their first home or maybe just moved away from their parents' house. The point is that these young adults with aphasia are still finding out who they are in arguably the most productive times in their lives. And that's where the challenge is for us SLPs, is to help our clients remain on their road of becoming together with their aphasia. But don't take it from me. I'd like to now introduce our young adult with aphasia. So Kate and I have been working together since June 2021 at Hope Network. At that time, Kate had just transitioned home from married free bed, and she was in our day program. Kate is an incredibly hard worker. She's a tough cookie. She is extremely fun, and she's shown a lot of resilience during her recovery, and I'm incredibly proud to work with her. But today's a great day to tell your story, Kate. So you're up. Yeah, that's it. Testing. Can you hear Kate? Oh, great. Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Murphy, but most people call me Kate. I am 23 years old, and I am from Parchment, Michigan. I graduated high school in 2017. After high school, I started college at Kellogg Community College, and I played volleyball and softball. In the winter of 2020, I transferred to Siena Heights University to finish my social work degree.
All throughout college, I worked full time. I worked as a parapro at Parchment School District. I worked with students with severe disabilities. I come from a big blended family. We are all very close. I also have a great group of friends. What I like to do in my free time is hang out with friends, go to concerts, dance, and make other people laugh. My personality is described as funny, stubborn, and caring. On March 19th, 2021, my life changed forever. I was in a rollover accident. My medical records say that my left carotid artery was blocked, stopping blood flow to my brain. This meant I had a massive stroke on top of my brain injury. I was transferred over to Borges Hospital and I was put on life support for 2 weeks. The, doc- the doctors told my parents that I wasn't going to live, but they kept me on life support and they even talked about donating my organs. But I survived and I was transferred over to Re- Mary Beth Rehabilitation Hospital in April 2021, right after Easter. This is when my real road to recovery began. I was going to live and I was going to fight. I was discharged home from Mary Freebed in May 2021. I made a lot of progress at Mary Freebed, but the work wasn't done yet. I had just started walking with my cane. I was getting used to wearing my arm brace and my leg brace. My speech and language skills were greatly impacted. This was the area I needed the most work on. I have aphasia. I was diagnosed with Broca's aphasia, but I have advanced to anomic aphasia. Looking back, I was so tired, but I had a job to do. I went to therapy at Hope Network 5 days a week, 15 hours total every week to see physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech. The adjustment moving home was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I suddenly needed 24-hour care and supervision. I needed help with all the basic things, such as getting dressed, going to the bathroom, and transportation. I even needed help getting my basic needs communicated. It was brutal. I felt like I had lost my identity. It was stolen from me. But I had goals, big goals for myself, and I was going to do everything to achieve them. It wasn't easy. It was hard to put a smile on my face and wake up as a different person. My goals were to gain back my independence that was stripped from me after my stroke and my TBI. I had just bought a house at the time of my injury. I wanted to move into that house. I wanted to return to driving. I wanted to return to college. I only had 16 credits left to get my bachelor's degree in social work. And finally, I wanted to return to work. I loved my job and I knew that the kids missed me. From From an accident through summer 2021, I was making good progress, but I wasn't recovered yet. My speech therapist, Allison, and I talked a lot about me returning to college. We also talked about me returning to work. She recommended me that I get my neuropsych testing to see where my strengths and weaknesses are. So we could send that information to Dr. Yablon at Mary Freebed, who would ultimately give us the green light for returning back to college and work. So in September 2021, I completed my neuropsych testing. There were lots of areas for me to continue improving in, but I was given the green light to slowly start doing what I wanted to do. So I went back to college. So why does identity matter? Well, research tells us that or a strong or robust is associated with a well-being and higher quality of life. And a positive sense of self helps people like me overcome barriers and communication risks, like going back to college and work. Finally, aphasia can have a devastating impact on self-esteem and identity because who I was no longer who I am for many people with aphasia. The reaction of others can significantly impact self and self-esteem. I find this to be true. Aphasia has impacted my life in so many ways. When I was at Mary Freeman, I remember looking at my cell phone and not being able to understand the text. Speaking and communicating used to be hard work for me. I knew the words I wanted to say, but I could not say them. I am getting better at speaking. I didn't like reading before my accident, and to be honest, I still don't like it now. But I know it's important because I have to read a lot in college. Writing has been a challenge. I was right-handed before my accident. I have learned to use my left hand. I use voice to text a lot, especially when writing college papers. I am getting better. Aphasia impacts my life, but my life is larger than aphasia. I need to remember that. And I'm happy to tell you today that I drive, go to work part-time, and I'll be graduating in May. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Learner outcome number 2 is how AFROM assessment and goal setting can lead to improved outcomes. And shortly, Kate and I will be demonstrating a little vignette on how we collaborate during the goal setting process. So before we talk about the AFROM model of assessment, let's quickly discuss the medical model. Sarah Barr, shout out to you. This visual is great. In the medical model of assessment, we have everything already planned out, maybe even before we see the client. We may pick out a standardized assessment like the SLUMS or the MOCA. We might get impairment-based results and report on that, and then make therapist-centered goals. However, this doesn't meet the standard of care that is now that's expected in aphasia treatment in rehab. We know that language impairment has nothing to do and nothing to tell us about our client's current activity and participation, let alone what their goals are. The AFROM model of assessment complements the model of relationship-centered care. AFROM assessment includes aphasia-related quality of life as a pivotal feature of assessment. Assessment may include components listed here, such as using the ALA, motivational interviewing, needs-based assessments, behavioral observations, questionnaires and prompts. We may do some caregiver interviewing and refer to professionals as appropriate. Goal setting is the commencement for therapy and should focus on the client's activity and participation. The SMARTER framework here is a base for both expanding and supporting collaborative goal setting and allowing this collaboration to be accepted in rehabilitation as a more explicit and valued process, both by professionals and by clients. So I'm going to describe this quickly at a high level. Shared, which is the F, as an effort is made to prepare clients, including families and significant others, about what is offered and what choices exist. Monitor denotes continuous evaluation, often as part of therapy itself. Accessible means aphasia-friendly, whether that involves extra time, a total communication support, supported conversation, or careful adaptations to goal-setting documents. Relevant, as in therapy should be relevant to people's lives. Transparent. Goal setting requires clear understanding of the goals and how the therapy tasks we're doing relates to them. Evolving emphasizes the need to revise and revisit goals regularly, but also incorporates a process of explaining to clients, even early on, that they can ask for a change in the therapy direction, and that therapy goals are not set in stone. And finally, relationship-centered and understanding that communication is both the focus of therapy and the vehicle of its delivery. A goal-setting tool that I use quite often is an educational pamphlet from the Aphasia Institute. On the left, you're going to see examples from the 4 AFROM domains. And on the right, you're going to see case responses from September 2021, where she and I were reevaluating her treatment plan and her goals. So for example, in her participation domain, here, her goals are to finish her bachelor's degree. She wanted to go back to college. She wanted to maintain employment as a parapro. She wanted to keep up in conversations with her family and friends. And she wanted to be prepared for oral presentations in college. And then notice in Kate's personal domain on the top right, she made statements like, I feel insecure. I feel stupid. She developed some positive self-talk strategies like, I can do it, I can do it, that she used this morning. This is just another tool that we can use to support goal setting. Some additional goal setting tools that complement RCC and AFROM framework, goal mapping. This is a strategy used to break down a larger goal into smaller sub-goals. For example, goal mapping can be used as a visual reminder to a client that in therapy today, we're reading phrases, but the larger goal is to advance to reading novels again, or even social work textbooks. Goal attainment scaling is a measurement tool based on a 5-point scale from -2 to +2 to rate the outcomes of each goal on a predefined criteria. And self-anchored rating scales is a rating scale from 0 to 10 where the client and their family rates the client's skills at various points in time. So Kate and I are going to show you an example now. Hey Kate, how are you? Good. People that want to stop louder here, interested in that. So okay, as discussed last week, we're going to review your goals as we do every month, every 30 days or so. I got the word from Dr. Yablon that he gave you the green light to start thinking about returning to college and returning to work. We knew that this was coming. Congratulations.
Thanks. I'm so excited, but I am really nervous.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for you. Why do you think you're nervous?
Because I don't know if I'm ready. I feel ready. I know I can do it, but it's going to be really hard.
Well, that's what I want to discuss today. We've been working on your college readiness skills for a while now. Your reading and your writing and your speaking. But now I'm wondering what you think about focusing and rewriting your goals that speak to some specific skills that you might encounter or you will encounter once you start back up. What do you think?
That sounds great. I think we need to focus more on my writing skills.
Yeah, on your writing. Let's continue with this. So, you've seen this before. This is a visual that we can use to rank your writing skills. When I first met you in June, so last June.
Yep.
Where would you have ranked your writing skills? On a scale from like 0 being like really bad, and like all the support, or 10 being, I don't need speech therapy anymore.
At the bottom, 1.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down. And what would your writing skills be like if you no longer needed speech therapy?
At a 10, I wouldn't need support getting my thoughts out.
Okay, so at a 10, so no more, so no support with writing?
Yep.
Okay. So that's marked there. And where do you think your writing skills are currently?
It's hard for me to tell. Maybe like a 4 or 5.
Okay. I'm gonna write down 4. Can you explain your current writing skills right now, including what's most challenging for you?
Well, I can write 1 to 2 sentences, maybe. But I feel like I get stuck. My brain is blank. It's hard for me to continue on the topic without sounding like I'm repeating myself.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're gonna make another goal for writing. What would it look like if your writing was ranked just a little bit higher, like a 5 or a 5.5?
I would be able to write a discussion post for my college class without any support.
Oh my gosh, discussion posts.
Yeah.
I wish I would have never heard that word. How many words are required for your discussion post?
I think around 100 to 150 words.
100 to 150 words. Okay, that's a lot. Yeah. So 100 to 150 words. Okay. What about we kind of start with a goal kind of maybe in that area? So maybe write a written paragraph on a topic related to social.
Yeah.
Sure, topic. Okay. So I'm gonna write that goal down. If oh yeah.
That sounds good. I also want to use voice to text at therapy.
Yeah, exactly. Have you been using voice to text at home or trying it out?
Yep.
Okay, great. I want you to still continue to use that at home for your like kind of a homework task. Just for practice, and then we will also work on that together at therapy. Sounds good?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. So that's a pretty normal conversation with a lot of eye rolling from Kate. I remember that she was face. Okay, for treatment. So as you can see, Kate and I developed goals together. Before we discuss outcomes, I want to just take a quick minute to discuss treatment. The time today won't allow me to go deeply into treatment methods, but we used protocols from response elaboration training where she would do some oral speaking, and then we would transfer that via dictation, the dictation function on Google Docs. So that worked really well for us. We also did a lot of script training because as college students know, you read a lot of emails in college. And so she really wanted to be prepared and successful in writing emails to her professors for asking questions and for responding to discussion posts. Yeah.
In a moment in a therapy session, where do you draw the line for a suggestion of when to not? Which steps to decide your
So it's really just kind of Kate and I just talk about it and we just try out both. So I let her lead.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might say, hey, do you want to just practice that like oral speaking or but a lot of the times we were able to work on her discussion posts right in therapy together. So we just kind of we did both. Yeah, and I would just recommend that, just let your client kind of lead you.
Yeah.
And then I just took data based on what our goal was. So our goal was for her to write 100 to 150 words. And so I just took data on that. But all the treatments we did specifically focused on improving Kate's skills to return to her life valued activity, which was returning to college. This graph shows some outcome measurements from the assessment of living with aphasia. So the ALA is a pictographic self-report measure of aphasia-related quality of life. You're going to see all 4 domains here. For those who are not familiar with the assessment, I highly recommend looking into it to use for your clinical practice. But for those of you who are familiar with assessment, you will notice the significant changes from June 2021 to June 2022 to March 2023. And so here you see for aphasia or the impairment, participation, environment, and personal. There's also the wall question and the total score. So you will see, especially with her aphasia, how it went from a 1 to a 9. So pretty significant improvement. And the best outcome of all, he's graduating. I almost brought a cat for you. I did too much. So to support psychosocial well-being is to be relationship-centered. It's to provide hope, to listen intently, to practice successful communicative events, and to build on the strengths of our clients. So all these techniques and strategies you've learned about today promotes the psychosocial well-being of our clients. Communication is so intrinsically woven into our personhood and social connection that it's difficult to conceive of aphasia therapy without relationship. And without a relationship-centered approach, the psychosocial well-being of our client can't be nurtured. So outcome number 3, gotta make sure we're good on time. Oh, we got lots of time. They're gonna be able to ask this question. Provide some resources. So we need our young clients with aphasia to get connected. So here are some links to some support groups, and you can even register. If you run a group, you can register your own support groups on these websites. Another resource is the Aphasia Recovery Connection. There are more than 10,000 members and individuals with aphasia where you can meet other people with aphasia. They also have a Facebook group community for individuals with aphasia and their caregivers. Are you in this group? Yeah, Kate's in this group. Yep. And I highly recommend virtual connections. These are free online meetups for families living with aphasia. And the sessions are facilitated by SLPs, music therapists, aphasia experts. There's a ton of variety too. So I just looked the other day, the variety is from like a veterans only group to a singing group to young people with aphasia. And here are the 2 groups specifically that I just pulled as examples that would support psychosocial well-being. The first one is Survivors Under 40, and the other is Rebuilding Identity. Also, Aphasia Access has training videos. These are for practitioners and students. Aphasia Access Conversations has a fantastic podcast where you can find, and you find this wherever you get your podcasts. I feel like I'm on NPR saying that. You can find wherever you get your podcasts. Aphasia Access has many episodes related to psychosocial issues, and I listed them here. Some other websites that I find a lot of benefit from is the Activity Studio from Honeycomb Speech Therapy. I do a monthly subscription, and I use the content every day in my clinical practice, whether that be evidence-based information or real-life activities or educational materials. And also the Job Accommodation Network, or JAN, which has been incredibly helpful for helping Kate as she transitions back to work. We can narrow it down to her disability specifically, and it talks about some possible accommodations that she might need. That really helps me in my clinical documentation. Okay, so since we have a few minutes left, would anybody like to make a comment on any of these reflections? So can you describe the link between psychosocial well-being and relationship-centered care? What life events happen in your adulthood? And is there any difference in assessment and treatment of young adults with aphasia versus older adults? Anybody want to comment? Yeah.
Currently treating someone who had broken 17 20 before
Yeah.
and so before he was going to college and at this point he feels like everyone went ahead of him because as all his friends in high school and having expensive. So a lot of what we're looking at is first of all, how can you risk for interest and we're also spending a lot of family treatment, which I think is in any like for a family time and then so that the kind of people to really feel like
Exactly. And how does that differ from maybe some older clients that you see?
like for example, he is not allowed to um watch movies that have spoilers in them or hang out with the young crowd. So it's hard to like work with the community our parents for this person, but also like if they under you know that we need to have a good social life and be a be good and passing that now to have yeah.
That's a tough age to have an injury at that age, and then kind of like a debilitating approach too. As well. Anybody else want to comment? I will move on. About no older adult. Absolutely. At a younger age versus an older age.
Yeah.
It's really hard to kind of determine that. It's really those who are around the person with aphasia and how we can get them connected. I can't say that enough. It's just it's our role to get our clients, whether they're 23 or 70, to get them connected somehow. Yeah, as best we can. So our learner outcomes revisited. Relationship-centered care is the foundation for psychosocial well-being. ACROM assessment and goal setting can lead to improved outcomes. And I want you to have strategies and resources to implement new skills into your clinical practice. And check out the poster session, poster 29. This is another example of a real life. Just basically what we talked about today with the different person with aphasia. So the title is Interwoven Aphasia Goals that Impact Environment, Participation, Impairment, and Identity. And again, I just want to thank Kate for standing with me today to talk about her story. And yeah, you trust me to help you. Thanks, everyone. These are here, but they will be up on the MSHA website as well. Thank you. Great. And come up and talk to me if you want. If you have any questions. Oh yeah, you need your numbers.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not leaving here without my numbers. Let me get that for you. The ending numbers for today, 189 30010. 189 30010. Great. And if you didn't get those beginning numbers, just come see me, please. All right. Enjoy the conference.